everyone on this rainy night. But you know what? I love the rain. We need the rain. We always need the rain. Because that's where we get our water. Good Elkin morning. Thank you for coming. We have a lot of information to go over. I think that what we should do is get started right away. How many of you know that we have SIS translation? For those of you who would rather listen in Bahasa, there is SIS translation. So I want to thank Alvin Lim for being our translator. And I'm sure he's going to translate correctly. And if he doesn't, tell me afterwards. Tell me later, okay? Tonight we're going to cover, to start with, a topic that sometimes doesn't get enough attention. And that is toxins in the water. And we all know that toxins are not good. I think we have different words in Malay. We can call some of these things racun. We can call some of them logam barat. We're going to get into this a little bit later. But not me. It's going to be Alvin, not me. So, let's remind ourselves, please. Water is life. Yes. Everything on earth must have water. Yes. Everything. From the biggest animal to the smallest microbe must have water. Humans are mostly made of water. You and I are 2/3 water by weight. So just have a quick look. 70% of your brain is water. 90% of your lungs. Yes, you breathe air, but your lungs are mostly made of water. Blood, heart. Water is the engine. Water makes things work. Without water, you die. It's a simple fact. You can live for over a month without food. You're going to be hungry, but you can still survive. But you can only live a few days without water. So water is critically important. What has happened to water? Let's look at what the United Nations says. This is a UN report from a few years ago, and this report is several hundred pages, and it has a cover that says, sick water? Well, now, all of us understand that we don't want to be sick. We want to be healthy. We want to feel good, not sick. And yet, water has become sick. And again, this is not me saying it. It's not Elkin saying it. This is from the United Nations. So, what is happening? Why is water getting sick? Is it just one little thing that's happening in one small place? Let's have a look. The reason that water is sick is because of something called contamination. Now, when my parents, my grandparents, your grandparents, when they were growing up, they did worry about contaminated water, but mostly they worried about particles like dirt and mud and sand. There were some organic chemicals, but not too many. Bacteria, for sure. Virus, cysts. Disinfection byproducts. The things that we use to kill organisms in the water. That's a contaminant. And let's focus for a minute on what we call heavy metal. Heavy metal is becoming a huge problem. I'm going to ask a question, and Alvin, maybe you're going to have to ask it in Bahasa Melayu. How many of you here have a cellular phone, a mobile phone? How many of you have? Everybody. Everybody. Did you know that in that mobile phone you have a battery? And did you know in that battery there's heavy metal? And when you get a new phone and your old phone is tossed away, guess what? Sooner or later, the heavy metal in that battery is going to go into the water. And it doesn't matter if it's a cell phone battery, a motorbike battery, a car battery, the lamps that we have here, paint, fertilizer, all of these things contain heavy metal. And people are dumping millions and millions of tons every day. And all of it ends up in the water. Absolutely has to. So it is a huge problem. Now, I think most of you know that even though I've lived in Malaysia 14 years now, I'm from the U.S. And for a long time, people in America thought, oh, we can drink the tap water. No problem. But in just the last year or two, it's been discovered that even the U.S. has a huge problem with heavy metal, mostly with lead. And this is an article that you can look up yourselves talking about water systems that provide water to millions of people, and they have unsafe levels of lead. Here is my point. It doesn't matter where you live. If you live in Australia part of the time, America, England, Malaysia, Vietnam, it makes no difference. This is a worldwide problem. I think all of you remember what was happening in Kuantan not that long ago. If you ever have a chance to read this quotation, it's pretty amazing. And it was heavy metal contamination because of bauxite. And here's something that you need to pay attention to. It's not just the rivers that were getting contaminated. Toxins in Kuantan's treated water, the water from the pipe. So it is a big problem wherever you go. And we need to understand, we need to acknowledge a problem before we can fix it. If you don't know there's a problem, how do you ever find a solution? So that's really why we are discussing this tonight. We need to make sure that there is a solution. Because if you drink sick water, what do you think is going to happen to you? Trust me, sooner or later, you're going to get sick. And we'll show that in just a second. This, believe it or not, is ordinary people like you and I who were drinking pipe water with microscopic amounts of arsenic. You couldn't see it, you couldn't taste it, you couldn't smell it. Everybody thought everything was okay. And then all of a sudden, things like this started happening and got worse and worse and worse. And even though these photos were taken in India, we know that naturally occurring arsenic and arsenic contamination from industry, it's happening everywhere. So, if you have a look at what the Water Quality Association arsenic fact sheet, what happens? Oh, you don't just, not just this. This is bad enough. Potential health effects. Serious skin problems, we saw that in the photo, causes cancer. Skin cancer, bladder cancer, lung cancer, kidney cancer, liver cancer, prostate cancer. Harms your cardiovascular and your nervous system. And believe me, it takes such a tiny amount, it's hard to even measure. 0.010 milligrams per liter. You know what that is? That's 10 parts per billion. Not parts per million, parts per billion. And what does the World Health Organization, what does it say is the safe limit? 0. 0. So, we could go on and on and on about heavy metal, whether it's lead, arsenic, cadmium. What else is happening in the world today? Well, 3 more types of contaminants. Medication. Medicine. Now I'm going to ask again, how many of you have ever taken any medication? Ever had medicine? Never? Never go to the clinic? Never take aspirin? Never take antibiotic? Everybody. Almost everybody has taken some sort of medication. And guess what? Much of that medication goes out of your body and into the water. And the person in the next city or the next state, they're drinking some of your medication. This is a very serious issue. This is a true issue. In fact, now, so far I haven't seen any fish yet like this, but it's coming. It must be coming because water all around the world is being contaminated with drugs. Now, I'm not talking illegal drugs, not cocaine or heroin or siabas or siabu. Is that it? Yeah. Siabas is our water supplier. Gotta be careful. I'm talking medicine, pharmaceutical drugs. And look at what the National Geographic magazine, special issue, the whole magazine was about water. And this is one of the diagrams from the magazine. This is a fish that they caught near Chicago. Chicago is the second city in America. This is a representation of the drugs that were found in the fish. Now, do you think that the fish went to the clinic and was given a bunch of drugs? I don't think so. No. The fish is just swimming around, trying to live. But because the drugs are in the water, the same water that people drink, this is what is happening. Now this next one, if you've seen it already, don't laugh. If you haven't seen it, you can laugh.
Wow.
Here is Mama Fish, and she just had a nice little baby fish, and naturally say, is it a boy or a girl? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Dua. Wow. Both? This is real. This is real. This is happening. The drugs and the other contaminants in the water are causing human endocrine system to get confused. And now there are fish, there are frogs, there are animals that live in water who have both sexes. It sounds kind of funny, but what is happening to people? What is this stuff doing to you and your kids? Think about it. It's a big, big issue. Another question. How many of you ever shampoo your hair? Nobody? Come on, put your hand up. How many of you shampoo your hair? Everybody. Do you just leave the shampoo? It just sits there? Or do you rinse it off and it goes down the drain? Yeah. And guess what? Somebody downstream drinks a little bit of your shampoo. Serious. And it's not just shampoo. It is detergent. Do you ever wash your clothes? Yes. When the wash goes to the rinse cycle, and it takes all the water and the detergent and the dirt, and it goes down the drain, sooner or later, it goes into a water treatment plant, and somebody's house, and somebody drinks a little bit of the detergent. There are so many different things that are contaminating the world's water today. It's hard to keep track. Seriously. As a member of the WQA Board of Directors, we get weekly updates on what is happening. It's unbelievable. It's scary. If I didn't know that we had a way to solve this problem, I would be scared because it's huge. Real quickly, synthetic organic chemicals. How many chemicals do you think there are? 34 million different chemicals. 34 million. And there are millions of tons that are produced worldwide and eventually go into the water. The EPA says that there's 62,000 of these chemicals that can be endocrine disruptors. They interfere with your hormones. They cause your body to be confused. And do you know what? They only regulate about 120 of the 62,000. Because there's just too many. And they don't have the time and the resources to study them all. So, don't be fooled. This is a big problem. And what happens if your endocrine system is disrupted? This book is called The Autoimmune Epidemic. This is an incredible book. It tells you how people and their lives are being destroyed by autoimmune disease. Let me take just a minute. Your immune system protects you. Your immune system keeps harmful bacteria, infections, keeps them from hurting you any worse than they do. What happens with an autoimmune disease? Your body begins to attack itself. Your body is confused, and your immune system that is supposed to protect you begins to attack you. Asthma. Asthma is an autoimmune disease. Rheumatoid arthritis. Have you ever seen somebody with such terrible arthritis in their hands or their joints? Diabetes. There are over 50 different autoimmune diseases. 50. And they are caused because our bodies are confused. The wrong signals are sent to our cells because of these chemicals, these endocrine disruptors. Alvin Lin, I'm going to challenge your translation ability here for those who are listening to SIS. There is a condition, don't have any slide for this. There's a condition in English, and I think it's the same in Malay, called autism. Autism, right? Autism. When I was in university studying, the number of cases of autism at that time was 1 in every 10,000 children. 1 in 10,000. A few years later, that number went to 1 in 5,000. It doubled. And then a few years went by, the number was 1 in 1,000. Wow. You know what it is today? You may be shocked. If you look it up, depending on which source you find, the estimate today is that 1 out of 50, 1 in 50 children has some form of autism. Now, do you think it's because the doctors are lousier? The clinics are worse? The hospitals are worse? No, it's because something's happening. Something is happening to people's body. And that something is very connected to toxins, chemicals, endocrine disruptors in the human body. So it's a serious problem. One more. Guess what? We don't have enough trouble for our water. We need more trouble. Plastic. Wow, plastic. We don't think about it, but look at this number down here. Every 60 seconds, or every 1 minute, 1 million plastic bottles are sold around the world. 1 million plastic bottles every minute. And do those bottles just disappear? No. They're thrown away, and sooner or later, they end up in a trash heap or in the water. Can you see this fellow is in a boat? In the water? Doesn't look like it, but he is. He's in the water. And this was in 2004. 14 years ago. Believe me, it's gotten worse. It is unbelievable what's happening. If you're able to see this down here, every year, 1 million tons of tiny plastic fibers go into water. 1 million tons. So, if you don't think this affects you, look at this one. I'm not going to say their name, but it's here, and it's here. World Health Organization just did a very deep analysis on bottled water. 259 bottles, 19 locations, 11 brands. In one bottle, 1 liter of this brand, they found 10,000 pieces of plastic. 10,000 pieces of plastic in 1 liter bottle. And they said that the average was 325 plastic particles in the bottled water. And these are the top brands in the world. So plastic is becoming a nightmare. Unbelievable problem. Real quick, and Alvin, sorry, no slide on this, so you won't have anything. There is something called, and this is a true story, this is part of what we now understand. There is an area called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. This is an area in the Pacific Ocean where the currents take all kinds of trash, mostly plastic, and it just fills the water. Guess how big this garbage patch gets? Is it as big as KL? Is it as big as Selangor? This garbage patch, this floating trash heap, is bigger than Malaysia. Bigger than the entire country. There are hundreds of millions of tons of floating trash, mostly plastic. So guess what's going to happen? I've seen it already in Malaysia. There are companies, there are efforts to ban plastic drinking straws. Selangor, you have to pay for your plastic bag if you go to the market. Many places have banned plastic bags, no more plastic. Some places have banned plastic bottles. This is a huge issue. And it affects you and me and our children. And it's only going to get worse. Lots of ways to treat water. Lots of different ways. This is a chart. Different kinds of systems. You can boil water, but boiling just kills virus and bacteria. Boiling doesn't remove any contaminants. You can use alkaline water machines. You can buy sediment carbon. You can buy UV. You can use a relatively new technology called ultrafiltration, or you can use reverse osmosis. And a lot of times it depends on what you need and what you can afford. But here's the important thing to understand. When you have a BioPure RO system and the multiple stages that the water passes through, it doesn't matter if it's logam barat, if it's racun, if it's bacteria, plastic, it takes it out. It's gone. BioPure, purifies the water. So, here's what we want to do. We want to introduce, for those of you who have not seen it, our newest BioPure model that we call the N300. The N300 is quite different from our previous K300 model. And we will take a few minutes and we're going to explain to you how the N300 is different. How many of you have seen the N300 before? Anybody? Or is this the first time? We've just launched the N300. And there are lots of different things, new things, but we're going to focus on 5 tonight. 5 new enhanced features. Number 1, extra hot. We've been listening to you, and a lot of you have said the K300 or the K400, the hot water, not quite hot enough. We'd like it a little bit hotter. So we've built in a function called extra hot. So that way, it doesn't matter if you're making very, very hot Chinese tea. Even though I know you're Malay, I know that some of you drink Chinese tea. I do. And I like hot, really hot. Maggie. Hey, who's advertising Maggie? I was just going to say me. But, okay, Maggie me. You want hot, hot, hot water to make those noodles soft and nice, right? So we listened. Anytime you want extra hot, you push the button. So this is another new feature. What happens if there's a water cut? There is a signal. It's called a no water or a feed water cutoff. It lets you know when the water isn't going into the machine, and it shuts down. That way the machine is pumping and trying to produce and working and it's getting tougher and tougher, and so it's a feed water or no water alert system. Did you notice how tall this is right here? So very easy to put in jugs, to put in your stainless steel bottle or your glass bottle or a tall pitcher. Very easy to fill. The other ones, sometimes you put sideways, sometimes you have to put a hose to it. A little bit inconvenient, but our new N300 has a much taller dispensing area, so it's much more convenient for you that way. Wow. This, to me, this is the biggest change. There is now 100 gallon per day membranes inside this system. So, if you know gallons, A gallon equals 3.78 liters. So your N300 in 24 hours can produce 378 liters of water. This means that it's perfect for high volume usage. It means that the N300 will produce water twice as fast as our previous models. So when you combine that 100-gallon or 378-liter production and a 17 liters worth of storage, wow, huge difference between N300 and K300. So for a mama stall, for a cafe, for a restaurant, for a big office, for a big family to share maybe, 2 or 3 families can use one machine and there's more than enough water. So this is why we have developed the N300. Finally, we made sure that our kids don't get burned. Kids love to push buttons, right? Kids love to press levers, push buttons, run around and try everything new. We don't want them to accidentally get burned, so we have a child safety law. So your children can't accidentally push the hot water or the extra hot water and accidentally get burned. So again, another feature that we have built into the N300. So when we say that you have convenience of 3 water temperatures, cold water, ambient, and hot, it's actually 4 temperatures. Remember, there's extra hot too. But the nice thing is, no matter how you like your water, hot, cold, or in between, the convenience is there. Personally, for drinking water, I love mine ice cold. I really do. 1 degree, 2 degrees, wow, I love ice cold. My wife says it makes her teeth hurt. Ah, it's too cold, my teeth hurt. Okay, mine don't, so I love cold water. There's something else that we want to introduce tonight, and it's called the BioPure Ultra. The Ultra. And a lot of people, hey, what's the BioPure Ultra? The BioPure Ultra is a very different system. This is the first model that Elken has ever sold of water treatment that is not reverse osmosis. BioPure Ultra uses a different membrane technology, because I think most of you know that reverse osmosis membrane has a porosity of 0.0001. This uses an ultrafiltration membrane technology. And this is what it actually looks like if you were to cut one of these open. There's thousands and thousands of what look like little tiny fibers. But these fibers are actually hollow. They're like straws. And these fibers have a porosity of 0.1 microns. So bacteria is too big to go through. Parasites, cysts, cryptosporidium, plastic, sand. All of these things are just too big to go through these little tiny straws. This is one straw magnified hundreds of times. The water passes through and goes to the middle. And I've actually got some microscopic photographs that on the outside you can actually see bacteria that can't go through. It's too small to go through. And this is how the UF membrane works. So the difference between our O membrane and UF membrane, simply put, is that the porosity is different. But the beautiful thing of the BioPure Ultra technology is that anybody who needs clean, safe water, anybody that just cannot afford a reverse osmosis system, people who live, let's say, in an apartment or a condo that they rent, people who have very, very limited space, people who live in an area with electricity cuts. This unit has no electricity. So we started selling BioPure Ultra in India many years ago. If you ever went to Elkin, India, you saw BioPure Ultra. Because India has lots and lots and lots of power cuts. India has lots and lots and lots of contaminated water. And India has lots, billions of people who cannot afford reverse osmosis. So Ultra was developed as an alternative. It was developed as a choice. So not only India, we have also been selling BioPure Ultra in Cambodia. We've been selling in the Philippines. And finally, enough people asked for it in Malaysia, we decided to launch BioPure Ultra in Malaysia. Because let's face it, students might live in a dormitory, they might live in a rented house or condo. Not so easy to install a BioPure RO system. Restaurants and cafes that use a lot of water for cooking, let's say, they don't want all the chlorine and all the organic contaminants and all the rest of that stuff in there. They don't want pieces of plastic. They want good, clean water for cooking. There are so many different target markets that you can choose. And some people have asked me, wait a second, all Elkin has ever sold is RO. RO is the best technology. And I would tell you as a master water specialist, yes, RO is the ultimate technology. But let me ask you to think a little differently for a moment. If you cannot afford a Mercedes or a BMW, are you just going to walk? Or are you going to buy a Proton Saga or a Toyota Vios, a Myvi? So maybe these aren't as upscale as Mercedes, BM, some of the others, but they are better than walking, yes. Believe me, the water coming out of BioPure Ultra is so much better than tap water. And let me tell you briefly why. Filter number 1 in Ultra, same exact filter as BioPure RO. Filter number 2, the pre-carbon, exactly the same filter as BioPure RO. Filter number 4, the postcarbon, exactly the same as BioPure RO. The only difference is filter 3, the membrane. BioPure RO uses an RO membrane. BioPure Ultra uses an ultrafiltration membrane or hollow fiber. Different type of technology, different, let me be scientific a little bit, different molecular weight cutoff. But here's the point. People like to have choice. Ladies and gentlemen, I have gotten so many headaches over the years trying to explain to people that they don't need minerals in their water. You don't need them. But some people, you gotta have the minerals. Okay. You can have a BioPure Ultra. It does not remove the minerals in the water. So, if you have somebody that insists they're going to buy another brand because it leaves the minerals in the water, tell them, BioPure Ultra, that's the one that you want. And please remember, BioPure Ultra is made in our factory. We produce it. We don't just buy pieces and parts from whoever. It's produced at the exact same factory where we produce BioPure RO systems. So the quality assurance, the vertical integration, the check after check after check, it's all there. It's all part of our system. Ielken will not sell anything. It doesn't matter if it's beauty products, health food products, water treatment systems, FMCG. Ielken will not sell anything that does not meet the highest quality standard. BioPure Ultra absolutely meets the standard. Still have water specialists. I'm still here. Hey, I heard a rumor. Seriously. I heard a rumor. Hey, did you hear Mike Long left the company? Huh? He went to work for another company. Huh? Really? I didn't know. Because I didn't. I'm still here. And we still have Mr. Alvin Pang. He's in the room next door. We still have Mr. C.P. Shin. Ielken has certified water specialists because we believe that you deserve good water. You deserve good health. Not some cutesy little actress that says, oh yes, I love this brand. She doesn't use that. They just pay her to say it. No way. So we want people to have good health. And water is critical to good health. We still have our technicians, our service organization. All of our technicians are trained on all the BioPure systems, including the new N300 and BioPure Ultra. To be honest with you, Ultra is so simple. In India, it was all DIY. In Philippines, all DIY. But we've made it convenient for people in Malaysia that if they want ESS to install and to service, no problem. We can do that. So, Ultra is a choice. It may not be the very, very, very best, but maybe it's second best. Don't ever let anybody that you care about go buy one of these other nonsense machines machines that are being sold in the market. Because water is life. Water is health. And finally, EK Smart. The EK Smart plan is a very easy to afford plan so that people, no matter how much or how little they earn, they can afford to have a BioPure. Whether it's BioPure RO or BioPure Ultra, and all the warranty parts and maintenance are included. There is no more spending money from your pocket for service or spare parts. We want everyone to enjoy good water. We hope everyone will have good water. And this is why we do what we do. And you know, I've been doing this for over 35 years now. People say, wow, don't you get tired of talking about water? No, never. I love it. I really do. And I love the fact that we, and that means you and me, we help other people. We help people with knowledge and information. Because knowledge is power. When you have knowledge, you can make very good decisions. So, ladies and gentlemen, please remember that whatever you decide to do as far as water treatment is concerned, make sure that you improve the quality of your life by improving the quality of the water that you drink. And I want to thank you all for having me here tonight. I hope you've learned a little bit, and I look forward to coming back again real soon. As soon as I get invited, I'm coming back. Okay? Thank you.